What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a video on The Thaumaturge, an upcoming isometric RPG from developer Fool's Theory behind another game called 7. They reached out recently to offer me a version of a demo that I believe was available at Gamescom actually, but they wanted to show it off a little bit ahead of the Steam Next Fest coming in October, which starts I believe on the 9th, during which they'll have another demo available. The demo that I played here was a little farther into the game, whereas the Steam Next Fest demo will cover the early parts of the game, the prologue. But if you want to play any of this for yourself, it will be a part of that Steam Next Fest, and I'll probably cover it then as well alongside other games. But The Thaumaturge is an interesting title overall. If you've seen any of the recent articles about it, you might have seen it referred to as a very odd version of something like Pokemon, which I don't think is a perfect comparison, but it's not necessarily far off either, given that, as a thaumaturge, we will be rounding up various almost Lovecraftian entities that then follow us around and help us do our work as a thaumaturge. And honestly, that's a pretty interesting premise in and of itself, but let's start at the beginning. What is this game about? The game takes place in the city of Warsaw in 1905. We play as a man named Victor, who is, of course, a thaumaturge, a person with mystical abilities that allows them to see and interact with these entities, ultimately sort of forcing them to work for you as you continue your work, which mostly revolves around tracking these things down and getting involved in the situations they attach themselves to, as the game actually describes them as demons multiple times. And they often cause problems by attaching themselves to people, causing that person to get into all sorts of trouble. This power, however, is apparently tied closely to family lineage, and a family matter is what is drawing us back to Warsaw. So alongside going through these situations, dealing with the problems these entities are causing, we're also dealing with some amount of family issues, related, of course, to the thaumaturgy. That's about as much as I could glean from what I played. Again, the demo with the Next Fest will likely be a little clearer in this regard, given that it covers the prologue. However, a few things to note, especially on the story. They describe it as a full-fledged RPG. There will be choices and there will be consequences to those, many of which seem to come down to our flaws, as well as other stats governed by our thaumaturgy, which the game describes as things like heart, deed, mind, and word. Essentially, these entities or demons are drawn to people with flaws. In the demo I played, our character's flaw is pride. This led one of the demons, known as Salutors technically, to be drawn to you, which allows you to form a bond and then force it to do what you need it to do. So these flaws and how you act in relation to them will then strengthen the bond with that associated Salutor, so to speak. So again, they're drawn to certain flaws, they're made stronger by that bond, and taking actions in relation to those flaws leads to other story choices. As we make choices, fight in battles, experience things, etc., we will be earning experience. When we level up, so to speak, we'll be given development points, which allows us to progress along a few tracks of experience here, which will give us new abilities for both us and our Salutors that will help you out in investigations and combat, of course. Now, gameplay-wise, it looks like we're going to be doing a lot of investigating, a lot of talking to people, trying to put together the pieces and track down, essentially, the people that these Salutors are attaching themselves to. That way we can get involved and ultimately sort of tame these creatures, and that basic setup is what is going to lead you to running around town, talking to people, finding information, drawing conclusions, opening up other avenues for investigation, so to speak, until finally you find the person you're looking for, by determining the flaw that person has and what Salutor is attracted to them as a result. And because of this, we're going to get involved in all sorts of dicey situations which lead to combat. Now, combat is an interesting affair because initially, with the way it was shown, some people thought it might be a card-based thing, but that's actually not true. These icons you're seeing are abilities that you have equipped. They're not cards that are drawn. These are just the options available to you and your Salutors, and both you and these entities will be taking part in combat. You can switch out the one that is helping you in combat with any of the others you have, but both you and them will decide what abilities you want to use, which then take up a slot on the time bar that you see at the top of the screen here. This is basically the order of everyone's turns, and depending on the actions you pick, you can be further or it might take longer to wind up, allowing you to get hit first, etc. So a pretty straightforward turn-based system. Each ability has, of course, things like status effects and other things that will affect both the turn order as well as your own approach to combat alongside whatever your Salutors are capable of. So we will be doing some commanding of these entities to fight for us while we track down ever more of them. And while I would say that's about the extent of the information to know about the demo that I played, I do think it looks to be a decent snapshot into what to expect from this game. I will say that the demo I played in particular, the animations are a little stiff, but it being a very early demo by the looks of it, that's not really a huge deal, though I do hope that in addition to just these investigations and things, we can get involved in more side content as well. Because while the main premise is pretty compelling, as something like Lovecraftian Pokemon is certainly an interesting approach to things, I am curious how much of the city we'll wind up being able to explore and what we can get up to outside of just these investigations. So that remains to be seen. Obviously that wasn't available in the demo at play here, but just some thoughts I had after playing it. Now, in terms of the game itself, I think it has a ton of promise, but a lot of it is going to come down to just how compelling the narrative is and how much depth there winds up being to both the combat as well as the situations and content you can get up to in the cities. But so far, I definitely enjoyed what I got to experience with this title. As it stands, I haven't seen anything in relation to a release date or anything, so it's hard to say when you should expect to see a launch for this, but it is a game that I'm keeping my eye on, and when it does launch, I will absolutely be reviewing it, as I'm very intrigued by the sort of occult vibe this brings to the table. But for now, that's pretty much everything I've got for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, hope you enjoyed the look at this particular game. Let me know what you think of it down below, which naturally means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.